Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Energy X Climate Change from Upstream to Downstream, from Ideas to Execution. I would like to thank you for taking your time and join us here today. I strongly believe that we're all concerned about climate change, but when it looks like a problem for future generations, you ask yourself, will climate change even affect me? No matter what you care about, climate change is already affecting our world today. You usually see and face some effects of climate change. For example, glaciers have melted, ice on rivers and lakes is breaking up at a fast pace, plant and animals ranges have shifted, frost-free season will lengthen, changing precipitation patterns in nature and a lot more list. To give some examples which are more related to our daily life, if you are one of those people who need a coffee hit in the morning, you will need to start worrying now because climate change may significantly negatively affect coffee quality and production. Moreover, energy is also heavily linked with climate change. Carbon emission in the environment is released from transportation, electricity, industry, and commercial and residential. Approximately 6,600 million metric tons of carbon dioxide creates greenhouse gas effect, and the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere that captures heat will then re-emit in all directions, including back to Earth's surface, and cause our planet to increase average temperature every year. This example may take more of your attention toward climate change and energy, which is our topic today. We'll be running a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate and leave your comments in the YouTube comment section. Today we have 4 great people with us. They're all from policy side and business side. So today we'll have Mr. David Galipeau, ex-UN officer and co-founder and managing partner of SDGX Group. Next up, we'll have Dr. Denchai Waradet Jamrun, CEO and co-founder of TIE Smart Solutions. And we'll also have Dr. Gritaya Kirana, CEO and founder of MoveMe. And lastly, we'll have Mr. Itikon Tepmani, co-founder at Laika Pet Food. Let's start with the policy. What are the global energy production trends? What are the current policy scenario, the sustainable development scenario, and some examples of policies to focus on? Please welcome Mr. David Galipeau.
There you go. Thanks very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Great to be here. Nice that everyone is listening in. Energy is a huge topic at the moment. SDGX is a company that actually invests in a lot of climate technology. So we're quite well versed on what's happening. But let me share my screen. There we go. So everyone can see that, I believe. So let's get into it. So why should you, basically, as an investor, consumer, policymaker, corporate CEO, entrepreneur, or even a student, why should you care about policy? Policy is this such an abstract sort of term sometimes. But as we start to get into it, it really, when you look at what has happened over the last couple of years, you've got the Greta effect, Greta Thunberg. 17-year-old Swedish activist that really has had a lot of impact on climate policy, on energy policy. So we're living at this watershed moment where even a 17-year-old Swede can have impact on European Commission, European Union policy, as well as other countries' policies. So policy is influenceable. There are ways to influence policy. And the situation that we're in right now, policy now becomes one of the critical tools for looking at how energy production and energy consumption is going to be established over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Also, when you look at the investment areas of investing into energy or into climate technologies, this becomes extremely relevant. So when you look at the energy policies, it really is multi-sectorial. It's convergent in a lot of ways. So when you talk about cities at risk, the policies, urban policy or policies going to be guiding economic development in urban areas and in rural areas are going to be impacted. When you look at the potential displacement of population through climate migration, so even population demographic policies are going to be impacted and connected with energy. Economic slowdown, I mean, we're in the middle of one right now, right? So when you look at even the economics, obviously the policy where economics and energy are connected. You look at the climate change that's happening, this sort of increase in weather catastrophes that are happening right now. So this is also on climate mitigation. There's going to be policies that are going to influence. And then obviously damages. The damage as a result of a lot of these big issues, mostly infrastructure damage, is going to have a huge impact. So infrastructure policy. So policy, when you talk about energy policy, you really talk about policy that has influences across multi-ministries, multi-areas of government, multi-areas of the population. And obviously in the COVID situation right now, we have seen a drop in greenhouse gases just through the hit that the economy has taken, specifically when you look at tourism, the travel industry, airlines, when you look at even the way that jobs, people are working from home, they're not driving their cars so much. There's a lot, public transportation is down. So there has been a drop simply because of the pandemic we're in right now, but the overall impact is still relatively small when we start to look at it. So policy really is also being driven by what's called the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals that were put out by the United Nations. So when we look how this clusters, the 17 goals that were put out by the United Nations in 2015, they really have an impact on the economy, society, and the planet. So the way they come together. And 197 countries, nations have signed up to these SDGs, and the SDGs are a commitment to try to achieve these goals by 2030. So it was a big influence on how policy is being written, specifically around energy. 187 countries have actually ratified their governments, the agreement by their governments. 90% probability of exceeding 2% base, and this is based on current trends, but when you actually see what's really happening as far as the legislation, it really is around 97% that we're going to exceed that 2-degree centigrade mark. 8 countries have actually brought out legislation and policy to reach net zero, to neutralize carbon emissions by 2050, 2.7 reduction in carbon when we look at it right now, CO2, and 16 countries have nationalized laws. And we'll talk about the difference between policies and laws a little bit later, but we're going through this. So SDGs now have also big influence on policy. So when we're looking at policy and the SDG alignment, it's really around 2 areas. The first area is the shift to renewables, the bringing on, if you will, of the circular economy. This is not a new idea. This was an idea that was introduced by the Dutch Parliament in 1979, and they sort of pushed towards this concept of renewables or the circular economy. So it's not a big shift. What is really starting to shift is this concept of feed-in tariffs. And feed-in tariffs are a policy tool that's designed to promote investments in renewable energy sources on one side. And what it normally means is it is promising small-scale energy producers, solar, wind, above market price if they deliver their energy into the grid. So this is a policy designed to create an incentive where small-scale energy producers, renewable energy producers, can actually sell their energy into the grid at above market price. And this is the tool of policy. Policy is there to design incentives. It's not a law, it's simply the policy. Laws are actually built under the policies. But the policy is there is to sort of influence the markets, influence the population, could be consumers, influence investors, influence producers, suppliers. So this is the tool. The second thing that's really making a difference in policy is the delinking from growth, economic growth, and energy consumption. There has for the longest time been a very strong correlation between economic growth and the demand for energy. And this has caused problems specifically in developing countries. Developing countries need to grow their economy, so they need energy. But the cost of energy, not only the cost in itself when it comes to a financial cost, but the cost on society and the cost on environment has really become a bit of an issue. So how do you delink growth from energy consumption? And these are some of the policy tools. So we start to dig a little bit deeper, and we don't have too much time today. When we look at the snapshot, when we're looking across Asia, for example, primarily we're going to do a comparative with China, Japan, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And this is a snapshot from 2014, from about 7-8 years ago. About 6-7 years ago. And it really was energy was there to meet basic human needs. And this was to create jobs, to supply transportation, to sort of increase the growth and expansion of agricultural activities. And it really was a big difference which countries and how they used policy to influence what they were trying to do. So when we start to look at across this, so you see the sources of different energies at the bottom, and then you see across the top the millions of tons of oil equivalent. That's a way to measure their energy produced. So if you look at China, oil, hydro, gas, huge amount of coal. And this is as a percentage, so a huge amount of coal, not that many renewables, if any at all. And this was in 2014. When we look at Malaysia, not so much coal, not so much renewables, but high on gas. So what they were using is a lot of gas to supply their energy. Japan, oil, hydro, they change in from coal to biomass and renewables. A totally different profile. And then when we look at Indonesia, they shift over from gas into biodiesel, coal, and renewables. So what this really is pointing out is there is no regional policy. You cannot apply sort of a regional policy. Every country is different, and often within countries, India is a good example, but often within countries, there's different sources. So policies have to be applied at the state level, sometimes even lower, in the Philippines, for example. So there is no regional policy. So policy is very national in that sense. So let's dig a little bit deeper. So let's look at the comparative between the three. And this is sort of a standard SWOT agreement. So we're looking at the internal strengths and weaknesses. We're looking at the external opportunities and threats. So let's look at China, really, when it comes into it. It really is highlighting, the strength is it's highlighting the importance of renewable energy. And we'll dig a bit deeper into that. But what it also means is they're investing. They're investing in biomass, wind, and ocean energy as well. The weakness is that they have a high dependency on energy imports. So when you look at the energy infrastructure within China and the natural sources of energy, they haven't tapped fully into them yet. They are still importing a lot of energy raw materials there in China. If you look at the United States, and the United States now claims to be 100% self-sufficient on energy. China has not there yet. So that creates a bit of a weakness. So the opportunities obviously is to provide these financial incentives and subsidies that really to invest into the energy infrastructure and create their own self-sufficiency. High technology around research and development, the amount of money that it has potential to invest in. But the threat is exactly that, the weakness of innovation and technologies and renewables from disruptions. So creating, having disruptions coming in from other countries, failures in connecting renewable energy to the electricity grid, and the proliferation of departments. So this has become a very bureaucratic affair in China. When we look at Japan, it really is emphasizing energy security, but they're also looking at sustainability, and they have strengthened their feed-in tariff system, so their FIT system. And they've really strengthened that. That means that small energy producers can sell their energy to the national grids at above market price. It's an incentive to invest in small energy renewable systems. And obviously the diversity of resources to reduce the imports, because they still are importing there. And the weakness is that really when you bring into this FIT system, it is successful only for solar energy and not for the other renewables. So they had a limitation on their policy that really gave the incentives to solar, but not to wind, for example. And that creates big problems, because that's going to reduce the investment in creating their energy infrastructure. New opportunities of use, clean renewable energy, and obviously when you look at the geothermal in Japan, it's a huge opportunity to invest in geothermal energy because of the hot springs and their natural ability, because they sit onto these volcanic lines. Increased electricity prices, import of fossil fuels. This is a big threat because they're not self-sufficient. They are still importing fossil fuels. So that creates this large trade imbalance, which is hurting their economy. And the threat on competitive countries such as China and solar modules. So they see, obviously you see where China is and where Japan is, the threat of competition coming in. Malaysia has a very balanced consumption of their resources right now in 2020. They are developing biomass resources. They're really sort of pushing into biomass resources, and they are now policy-wise promoting these feed-in tariff schemes for the renewable energy projects. No contribution to biomass observed in the energy mix at the moment. So even though they are starting to invest into it, it really is not there yet. So they're looking to raise that over the next 10 years. Promoting small-scale renewable energy, when you look at a country like Malaysia, which is very decentralized, as opposed to China, which is very centralized. If you look at very decentralized, they really do want to promote districts and the outlying islands to create their own small-scale renewable projects. And that creates a pioneer status for them, the investment and tax allowance. So that's drawing in foreign direct investment. One of the issues here, specifically with Thailand. We see it also in Sri Lanka and some of the countries in Africa, the problems of bringing in foreign direct investment. India, another example. Subsidies given to conventional fuel sources. This is still the threat. So this legacy, this bad habit, if you will, of still subsidizing fossil fuels. If you look at America, for example, and even in parts of Europe, they are still doing heavy subsidies on fossil fuel energy production. And that is sort of hurting the investment cycle. So the investment going into renewables or into new technologies is not attractive because of these subsidies. So these are some of the problems here. But you look at Indonesia, really looking at energy efficiency. So the policy in Indonesia is focusing on consumption, not so much on production, but on consumption. How do you reduce consumption? And it really is developing the renewables energies. But they're still heavily reliant on coal at the moment. And there are a lot of politicals, but also a lot of financial reasons behind that. Political factors, really a positive influence. The policy innovation that's being generated in Indonesia is really promoting investment into small-scale alternative energy solutions. And that is creating huge opportunities, again, for foreign direct investment. But the poor consulting, decision makers, it's a very complicated system, very bureaucratic government. It is a very slow moving. It is moving very much in a positive direction, specifically for Indonesia as a nation, for their demand patterns and their consumption patterns. But there is this problem around getting through the bureaucracy. So as you see, every country is taking a slightly different approach. There cannot be a regional approach, even though climate change is global in nature, often very regional or sub-regional in nature. You cannot have a policy alignment that works in that. The European Union had tried to do that. It didn't quite work. Certainly with ASEAN, it won't do that. So every nation is sort of taking this on as a national security issue and really sort of applying what is helping them economically, environmentally, and with their population, with their people civically as well. So let's dig a little bit deeper when we go into exactly what, for example, China. And I'm using China as an example because it is a very good example. They have put a lot of investment in. They've had a lot of policy innovation with central decision making. Things can happen very quickly. You look at renewable energy law of the People's Republic of China. 2006 is when it started. And it really was talking about renewable energy and the importance. And then when he comes into the year after that, they're really sort of pushing into the increased amount of non-fossil energy in their total consumption patterns. As they started to come out, you got to remember now in 2007 when China was opening up. So they're starting to come out and they created this large MOU with the United States. So this United States and China MOU on biomass development. This is 2007. So it's very early stage. And it really was pushing advanced research, this sort of research cooperation between the academic and the research centers in China and that of the United States, and really to look on bio-based products. Renewable energy law amendments were created in 2009, which gave the ability for grid companies to purchase all the renewable energy generated. And that was the incentive. They didn't want to have producers of renewable energy, but nobody buying. So they actually brought in a policy that turned into an amendment with a bunch of laws that followed in the renewable energy law, which really enforced power grid companies to purchase that energy. The 12-year plan that came out the 12th five-year plan, that came out in 2012, was really starting to put numbers on it. So they wanted to move into a 10% of total energy uses being non-fossil energy. The policy of 2016, Chinese energy technology innovation, reduced the dependency on imports to become more self-sustained. We saw that as one of the weaknesses in their SWOT. They are still importing. But now in 2016, they put a law to really start looking at energy technology and the investments in energy technology so they can become self-sufficient. The 13th Renewable Energy Development and the 5-year plan in 2016 lead renewable energy technology innovation. They really put it in their policy that China was going to be a leader in renewable energy technology innovation. And this has a huge impact. It has an impact on the creation of markets, the creation of jobs, the creation of brand new technologies, and actually then the application of all that so they can start to use it. And they put targets on it to increase from 15% to 30% by 2030. And they then started to push in 2016 into ocean power, offshore wind development. So they really moved into this area, which again has an influence on investment. And they put this limit in. And then in 2016, again, really to answer cost-effective and become a global leader. So they saw that not only with the investment side and the consumption side and the production side, but they wanted to be seen as a global leader. And that was put into policy. So when we start to dig a little bit deeper in their 14th five-year plan, current one, April 2020, National Energy Commission, the new draft energy law came in, clearly stating that renewable energy has priority for development in the energy system. The measurement really comes down to development of low carbon energy systems or finding substitutes for natural gas and oil. And it codifies existing policy into law. That's what I was talking about previously. Policy is one thing, law is another thing. But now they're going directly into codifying this policy into law. Rather than institutionalizing new policies on top, they're actually now creating the legal system, the legal support behind it. So they're really talking about taking away this sort of long-term guidance on energy policy, becoming a lot more agile and pushing it in. And the directive is really going to this broad guidance. So power market reforms, technology revolution, again, this investment into advanced technology, especially now when we look at deep technology, the new clusters of technology coming down the pipeline, and even in areas of robotics, artificial intelligence, material science. So new construction materials. They're going to be a lot more climate resilient. And then obviously President Xi has this overall vision of beautiful China. He really sees this as a low carbon development, these policy sort of innovations of coming into the designing of an ecological civilization, ecological society. So when we bring that down into a little more deeper and how it comes into, really solar and wind have been the benefit in the renewable energy sector. And because of the heavy investments brought through policy, the codification into law, we have seen drastic increases in wind, onshore and offshore, and also in solar. So we're talking about total solar. And this is, again, policy influence. Now, when we talk about investment, investment is financial. It is helping on their economy, but it's also creating jobs, giving opportunities for entrepreneurs, for new startups, giving opportunities for venture capital to come in to manage the risk of these startups coming in. Also, to complement the growth of their economy, they needed additional energy. So instead of going into fossil fuels, creating more CO2 in the air, this is a substitute and has a beneficial effect on the environment. So pollution, air pollution specifically, has come down, not drastically, but it has come down a lot over the last couple of years. So we get into this, and I believe it's my last slide. China, getting into understanding how China designs its policy innovation is extremely important, not only because of the global situation that we're in, but simply because China is one of the largest producers in that sense. And they have now made a commitment at the United Nations a few months ago to be basically net zero by 2060. And this is a huge economy. This is a $14 trillion economy that you've got to now switch over without hurting the economy, without hurting the job growth that they need to supply a lot of their students coming out of school. To become carbon neutral, China has to curtail its emissions by about 90%. That is a huge target by 2060. But over the past decade, they have been leading the world in clean energy technologies. This again being influenced by the policy incentives being brought into the investment into technology and also the allowance of foreign investments to come into China. By far, this is the largest investor, producer, and consumer of renewable energy right now. And this is a direct result of policy. It has, having central decision-making, makes that policy move a lot faster. And that policy being codified into law means it's enforceable. So this has had a huge impact. And it's something that the world could really look at. 33% of all solar panels and wind turbines in the world are in China. The global leader of production of batteries as well. So as we now start to look at this new movement into autonomous vehicles and EVs, electric vehicles, whether they're vehicles, whether it's marine, whether it's scooters, public transportation, they are pushing heavily into these areas, again, through policy incentives. And they're really sort of instigating this healthy competition between the US right now, which is sort of an indication of a green war, which could ultimately benefit the planet in that sense. So in wrapping up, the global energy policy at the national level really is a powerful innovation tool for the economy, for the people, for job creation, for new investments. So policy may sound like one of these dry discussion points, but when you start to look at policy innovation, and when you start to look at how that applies to sustainable systems, it really does actually make a lot of sense. China is doing a lot of positive things. They're making a lot of smart decisions around their policy and their law codification. And we see the results of that through that increased investments and their commitments going forward. And I believe that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. David, for delivering such an insightful presentation about policies around the world. And I really like that you distinguish that policies and laws are two different things, and how policies can make an impact to laws and countries' like decision. So after having a brief background about policies relating to climate change, let's move to the downstream and business. We have Dr. Den Chai, or Det Jamren, CEO and co-founder of TIE Smart Solutions, who is doing automated commissioning, optimization solutions, and energy management information systems. Now let us invite Dr. Den Chai. Is Mr. David still here?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. So, like, after your talk, there are some questions initiated by some of our fellow classmates.
Do they want to put them in the chat?
I can read it out to you, or should I?
Oh, sure. You're frozen again. Yeah, now you're back.
Okay. So a classmate asked that you talked about energy production in several countries, but a classmate is curious about what about in Thailand? Do you have any insights about Thailand's energy production, or like what Thailand has to focus on consumption or production, and what type of energy resource should we increase or decrease?
Well, when you look at the connection between energy and growth, I mean, Thailand has a big issue at the moment as far as growth. It needs to diversify its economy quite a bit. It's in a what they call a low-cost production economy, so low wages, a lot of factories, and with the threat of automation, robotics, there's a big problem in Thailand because as wages are going up, and wages in Thailand are going up, which is good, new policy. But the cost of automation, the cost of robotics is coming down drastically. So it's a big issue here. And the other issue is investment, foreign direct investment. There's a problem getting foreign investors to come to Thailand because of the rule of law. The court systems are not as strong as they should be, let's say, for foreign investors to come in. So they're really working on domestic investment. A lot of that's government. And they need to diversify their economy. So there are some energy issues here that are well connected, and the policies are just not put in place yet for the moment, right? I don't know if you heard that because you're frozen at the moment, but
Clearly.
yeah, did you hear that? Yeah, your internet connection is really quite bad. I think it's
Yeah.
yours.
Yep.
Yeah. But this is something I think I'm teaching a policy course at the school next semester. So this is something, a sustainable policy course. So we will be talking a lot about these types of things. No, you froze it again. Maybe that'll help if your video's off.
Yeah. Okay. I think Dr. Denchai is here. Okay, hi, Dr. Denchai.
Hi, how are you?
Great, I'm doing great. All right,
All
so
right.
let us introduce our next speaker again. So today we will be having Dr. Denchai or Det Jamrun, CEO and co-founder of TIE Smart Solutions, who is doing automated commissioning, optimization solutions.
Your internet connection is lost. I think maybe. Oh, okay. It's coming.
Okay. Okay, so today we'll be having Dr. Denchai, CEO of and co-founder of TIE Smart Solutions, who is doing automated commissioning, optimization solutions, and energy management information systems. So let's invite Dr. Denchai for a talk.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Assistant Professor Dr. Denchai. Okay, today is or let me share my presentation. All right. Okay, all right. Do you see my PPT?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Yeah, first today I can share the AI command that our technology and AI command center and optimization control. It can be used for both indoor building and factory health control with the energy saving, right? I think most of you guys understand how we're gonna reduce carbon footprint emission. If we can reduce the excessive energy consumption, we can solve this solution. But mostly we have to understand what the excessive energy consumption, how it's incurred. So it's incurred by improper design, installation, testing, and commissioning all the equipment in the building and factory. But mostly we focus on the air conditioning system first because it's account more than the 30% in Thailand or the hot climate region. Also, if this kind of equipment they have like problems, so they also
Lost you. We seem to lost you. Some internet connection.
right for the internet connection loss. We already use the new one. All right. Okay.
Okay, no
Let me
problem.
continue. Uh, all right. Okay. Yeah. if we solve all the problems, then we can increase the work productivity and also can reduce power loss, right? My inspiration is start from when I was a PhD student in University of Nebraska. At Nebraska, the project is start from the Target store. They have around more than 500 retail store in USA, and the owner needs to hire a lot of mechanical engineering to take care of all the facility. Yeah, that's why the idea is they develop the real-time monitoring and diagnostic system. You're gonna see the control and data acquisition, right? So this one is like command center. It's set up at the University of Nebraska. And also we have the big data platform developed based on the testing equipment, because this kind of equipment is used for around the Target store in USA. That's why this command center is my inspiration. Yeah, the command center can do like use basic AI to do the automated continuous commissioning. It's right. They're gonna notify what equipment faults are when the code is can diagnose. Okay, and send out information to the building operator in time. So that's why they can reduce the maintenance costs and the operation costs in terms of hiring. Can reduce a number of the mechanical engineering. So all the things can replaced by the AI command center. That's why this is my inspiration when I'm back to Thailand like last 5 years ago, and we set up the TIE Smart Solution. Is set up by the expert mechanical engineering teams and S1 telecommunication team. We are all from the University of Nebraska and set up like a national lab in Thailand 4 years ago, right? But furthermore, when we first investigate how to duplicate the same thing in Nebraska to deploy in Bangkok, they meet that this is the same thing. Owner needs to lose around 30% belong to the air conditioning system problem. But the more difficult thing is like in USA, they quite don't have the problem about the indoor environmental quality, because they have heating and cooling. So when your indoor building is too cool, they're gonna have like a heating system to warm it. That's why you're gonna waste the boiler power consumption. But that's why they don't have the indoor humidity problem. But in Thailand, we have only cooling, right? That's a main difference thing. This kind of problem, the owner try to hire facility manager to manage all the things, but the same problem. But in Thailand, mechanical engineer or even the facility engineer, they lack of how to use the data. That's the main point. Moreover, in Thailand, we have a lot of refrigeration system, right? They use more than 2 times of the air conditioning system power consumption. Yeah, this also challenges. If more than that, if we in Nebraska, for my responsibility in Nebraska, we don't have to do anything. We just use our knowledge to analyze, to diagnose. Because our system is like a software as a service platform. It can directly connect to the existing building automation system. Because in Nebraska and developed country like USA is already the standard system. But in Thailand, the system is building automation system is not standard. But even we don't have the same data, even we use the same brand. More than that, building automation system is separated into at least 3 subsystems, include the chiller plant manager, building automation system and energy management system or power consumption. That's why TAE Smart Solutions solve this problem by we further develop IoT platform to integrate all the data into the one. We use an AI platform to integrate all the data and send it to our software as service platform, and to do the same thing like in Nebraska. Yeah, and also we can save the energy saving like in Nebraska, but the more intelligence thing than Nebraska, because we got more than problem, because we can solving indoor humidity problem. We can guarantee and reduce the indoor humidity less than the 60%. If you can reduce the can control indoor relative humidity, you also can control and reduce the energy consumption, right? And also, if you want to apply the same thing in in Target store, they're gonna have a lot of refrigerant system. I think all you guys gonna quite get used to about this figure is all in the small retail store brand, right? They're gonna have like standard controller, but in retail store or small building, they don't have like building automation system. That's why it's another challenges for the IoT platform to integrate all the data and do the same thing that I present a couple slides, right? Right. The application of the user AI command center, definitely we would like to reduce the power consumption, right? And also still maintain the good indoor air quality. So this graph is show if you do nothing, mostly is in Thailand. Even you change equipment, you can face like this situation. But if you apply automated commissioning or ongoing commissioning, use the data and perform for diagnostics, you can reduce the power consumption. Yeah, like the green area in the graph. That means it's like you have a doctor to also diagnose your building health or factory health. That is result in sustainable energy consumption reduction and reduce to long-term reduction of CO2 emission. Yeah. Right. For now, TAE Smart Solution is already installed. We first focus in high-rise building first because the building automation system is quite standard than rather than the factory. We already installed more than 30 commercial buildings right now, and around 30%. We already surveyed more than 200 high-rise commercial building units in Bangkok. Yeah, and we try to expand for our system with the building with our building automation system. Later on this is if you can reduce 20%, it's just a 200 unit, you can get energy saving sharing opportunity more than 400 million baht. And also a lot of our predictive maintenance costs. It's also increase CO2 reduction emission as well. Right? But also they still have tons of factory and buildings, more than 120,000 units that can apply the software as a service platform to do the fall diagnosis. But right now it's hard to perform that because the lack of a building automation system. That's why the owner need to invest a lot of the IoT equipment, even the building automation system cost operation. Right now, to solve this problem, TAE try to develop a freemium platform. The freemium platform is like developed with the facility management center like the Stock Exchange of Thailand and Bank of Thailand. We try to help together to develop it at a standard. Right now, maybe it's not over next year, a couple years. This tool is going to be standard for the regulation law used by to investigate the building energy code, and also used with the Air Conditioning Association of Thailand. Okay, our product as I mentioned, we already got the Thailand Energy Award in 2019. It's a for diagnostics software as service platform, right? I already mentioned, similar to the technology in Nebraska. And also we are further develop the intelligent optimization, automated optimization control. We set up at couple buildings. We'll finish in the beginning of the next year. And also we further apply the technology with the full spectral solution as well. Okay, we also have the further do the same thing with the other equipment like variable refrigerant volume. Yeah, maybe we can also share the technology to install at one of the couple building in the Chulalongkorn University to show how we can diagnose VAV faults in VRV air conditioning system. Okay, and also we can apply even with the suite type system, but everything is based on the reasonable cost installation. We also do the same thing with the building facility beyond air conditioning system, like I mentioned, booster pump system, water pump system, right? And this how to implement the product. Yeah, this is implemented in the MEA headquarters. Yeah, we use a building information system to export the building and use IoT to install all the things. Integrate all the data into the software as service platform. This is our software as service platform. And integrate to the existing building automation system, like a chiller fan system, and perform the fault diagnostic. This is command center used by our staff, all right? Okay, I'm skip this one. So right now we plan to expand our product more than the 60 implementation in next year, right? And this is a new index. If you can reduce relative humidity around 5%, you can reduce the power consumption around up to 10%. Yeah, this is we try to develop as a new index and use with MEA energy saving index in next year. What the different thing between developed in Nebraska and in Thailand? If you see in the table F1 up to F7, yeah, that's called typical system, typical faults. It's like standard fault we already use in that can be used in developed country. But in Thailand, all this they handle by the manufacturer. That's why even we already developed to diagnose what kind of any faults, typical faults, but you cannot sell this product because they still have a lot of many faults that never in the theory. So it's incurred in developing country. That's a challenge that in our obstruction to penetrate, right? And also any kind of air conditioning system, they're gonna have like F4 air side short circuit problem about the humidity problem. That's why you also can solve this one before you're gonna reduce the energy cost. All right, and also the main that I mentioned, the difficult thing is the owner do not understand that their building automation system is not standard right now. And some manufacturers try to develop the new market called energy power consumption monitoring, but it's useless. It cannot use just a modular power if you don't have like any parameter to match how to do the diagnose faults. All right, our short progress is we plan to scale our product with a faster property that I mentioned. We plan to expand our product in Bangkok more than 100 unit building in next year, in a couple years. Yeah, that's a short-term plan, right? And right now, the yellow highlight is our customer that already use our product. Yeah, we try to be the first AI command center for Bangkok and try to scale for in terms of smart city all around in Thailand within a couple years. right? We try to develop it as a standard as well. We try to develop the standard data with the Air Association of Thailand, or called ACAT. Yeah. Okay, this is all our team. I'm assistant professor Dr. Denchai. I'm the expert with the smart air conditioning system area with experience more than 10 years. And my partner, Dr. Putipong, is expert in IoT and machine learning. Our team has experience more than 10 years around the sustainable and energy saving reduction. That's why we quite understand well. This technology also expand use for the mechanical engineering at Lion University as well, joining with the assistant professor Salagit, and also with the KMUTT. Yeah, that was a presentation today.
Thank you, Dr. Denchai, for sharing lots of interesting details about your business. Your experience and expertise with AI and smart solution technology is truly impressive. Okay, so let's move on to the next business, which also has an intention to help the world too. This business does ride sharing with electric vehicles. To be more specific, electric tuk-tuk. And you can see them around Siam, Yawarat, Puri, Asok, and many other parts of Bangkok. I am pretty sure most of us have tried this company's service. Yes, MoveMe will be sharing some insights with us today. Now let us invite MoveMe's CEO and founder, Dr. Krisada Kritaya Darina.
My name is Nick Krisada, and I'm one of the co-founder of Urban Mobility Tech. And you guys hopefully will know us roughly from the service MoveMe that we're doing. But let me just share my screen, and hopefully everyone could see this. I think my presentation probably shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, so I might have some spare time at the end that you guys could choose ask questions. And so I think feel free to send questions to the moderators right now, so that we have something to discuss at the end of my sessions. Okay, so I presume that you guys could see my screen, right? So what we're doing, we are actually, the company is called Urban Mobility Tech, and what we try to do is we try to shape the future of urban mobilities, which is cheaper, cleaner, and safer. So this is kind of like a rough pictures that we want to see in the pictures. Most people may think that we are a tuk-tuk company, but we're actually not. We are think about ourselves more as a mobility service. So tuk-tuk is just our starting point, but we are looking at in the futures, we try to bring many types of different vehicles and platform to serve customer needs. So founding teams consists of 4 people. So I'm CEO, and my role is try to bridge the gap between technologies and the business side. So on the technology side, I did my PhD in autonomous vehicles. And after that, I did some consulting for 3 years before starting UMT. Then we have Meg, who is specialized on the tech side. So Meg is responsible for all the application and the data and algorithm. So we had the third person is Pipat, and Pipat is responsible for everything related to electric vehicles. So you might know his work from Pipat is actually the first person who did the Chula Pop Bus, the pink one, the one before this one, that you probably see 3 or 4 years ago. And the last person is Supapong, who is business development. Okay. So why are we doing this, and where's it all start? It starts from the fact that this is a pretty common pictures that we see every morning in big cities, including Bangkok. And it's turned out that even though there's 1.2 million people using mass transit like a BTS, MRT, airport railing every day, there's still a big need for microtransit. So we think that there's a huge gap that we could help in here to encourage people to use mass transit more, because one of the difficulties of using mass transit is how do you actually get to your final destination, or how do you actually connect to the BTS or MRT station? So that is where we want to fill in this gap. So if we talk about these microtransit, or if we could also call first mile, last mile, when we do some research, there's two criteria that people cares about. The first one is about price. So they need something that is cheap. And the other one is about accessibility, meaning that how easy it is for them to access and how fast could they use the service and get to their final destination. So if you look at the landscape in Bangkok, for example, you see that we start from Thong Thao, which is pretty cheap, but at the same time, it's fixed route. So you might be on the route or you might not be on the route. So the accessibility is not high. Then, of course, you have these traditional motorbikes, tuk-tuk, taxi. The price getting higher, but at the same time, accessible is improve. For example, the Wind motorcycle likely going to be at the point where you come out from the BTS or MRT, or these types of vehicles could potentially drive past you and you could just hail it. Then, of course, if we talk about couple of years now that we have this ride hailing, then we have these Grab and other ride hailing application. So how do we see that we are different from this? I think one of the keywords here is that we're focusing on microtransit. So we are actually very focused on connecting with the mass transit. So we are not talking about service that could just go from Chula to Anusawari or to Silom or something like that. But we actually, when we operate, is very focused in certain area. And what that means is that one of the key differentiation from MoveMe to other ride hailing is that the starting price is about half the price of other ride hailing. And you still get the accessibilities by using the application, but the price is lower. And we could make it lower, and that is through sharing that we do. So to explain MoveMe, it's the concept, as I mentioned, it's about local ride sharing. So what we do is we focus on two key things. One is accessibilities, and it's that through the application. And the other one is sharing. And when we talk about sharing, we are talking about we have the algorithm side that match people who go on the same direction into the same vehicles. And at the same time, the vehicles that we use is specifically designed for sharing. So if you see MoveMe vehicles, you see that it has low floor, easy to get in and out, and you also have multiple people could sit and share the vehicles together. So that kind of like a two key features of MoveMe. And if we think about the operation side, as mentioned, we focusing on microtransit. We are not a taxi company. We are not competing with Grab or Gojek or Get. And the way we operate is zone based. So we, as you see that we operate in Chula area, and you could go around the area, but of course you could not go to Anusawari, or you could not go further out from the area. Okay. So far, that's the concept. We actually opened 6 areas now. Sorry, I haven't updated the slide. The 6 areas actually Kaset Sena. So currently we have service in Chula, Samyan Ari. Then we also have Ratana Kosin, Asok, Pahon Yotin, and as mentioned, Kaset. So currently, I think there's more than 500 hop points. And so far, we have served over 700,000 passengers safely, finger crossed, to their destinations. At the same time, we felt that what we do here is changing, try to move the whole ecosystem. And we are not saying that we're just going to come and disrupt other people, but one of the key things that we think benefits the societies as well is that at least we have help these drivers who can earn honest and steady income. So many of these drivers are actually previously drive traditional tuk-tuk and switch to us. So we felt that doing this, we actually help them have like honest incomes, steady incomes. And the last one is the fact that we actually use electric vehicles. So far we have been saving over 60 tons of greenhouse gas. and it's increasing every month because now we have close to 100 vehicles operating. So every month the vehicles accumulate over 100,000 kilometers every month, and we think by using electric we also help the environment as well. So I think that's pretty much it from my side, and I think from my understanding we probably have 10 minutes that I could take questions or whatever the MC seems appropriate.
Sure. I think we can squeeze in a couple of questions. I see
Sure.
that there are some questions on YouTube. So there's people asking, does MoveMe have a plan to service in other provinces in Thailand?
Definitely. We think there's also needs for these big cities in Thailand, such as Chiang Mai, Khon Kaen, Phuket, Hat Yai, and there's discussions about those as well. And we believe that this model could be copy and paste to different cities.
Mhm. And apart from the obvious positive externalities of using electrical vehicles instead of like petrol, what is another huge benefit of this that can bring to MoveMe?
For using EV.
Yeah, like apart from using EV instead of petrol.
Um, I think the interesting part is that when we choose to go electric, the original intention was the main reason was not because of the environment, but the main reason was because it allowed us to redesign the whole vehicles and make it shareable. And I think that's one of the things that that we felt that we do this very different from other electric vehicles manufacturers that do tuk-tuk. Because I think when we do electric vehicles, there's a whole paradigm shift of engineering design that you no longer need like a transmission, you no longer need a drive shaft, and the whole packaging could be changed. And that's actually opened up the new way of designing the vehicles for us. Because if you look at other people who doing electric tuk-tuks, what they normally do is they bring in the traditional tuk-tuk and then they remove the engine and then they put the motor in, but you actually doesn't get the real benefits of repackaging the whole things, and that's actually the reason number one why we go for electrics. But the second reason is that the whole operating cost, if you look at total cost of ownerships, is actually very competitive to the gasoline or the LPG vehicles. So if you look in long run, it's competitive, and it will become even more competitive because the whole EV business is driven by the cost of the batteries, and the cost of the battery is significantly reduced. It's reduced faster than we anticipate 3 years ago. So that's actually like a pretty interesting trend to the technology.
I see. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's another question from user Ronnie UTS. So, what is the plan for MoveMe or other microtransits tech in your company to scale?
Sorry, could you repeat the questions again?
What is the plan for MoveMe or other microtransits tech in your company to scale?
What are the plan that we have for scale? I think we I we in the phase of refining the business models and the technologies, and we felt that we are at the stage where we probably close to ready to copy and paste. So that would be the things that allow us to scale, right? That we could just open pop up in different areas by using the same business model, same technologies. So that's probably our plan for scale. And I think I haven't talked much about technologies in my slide, and maybe I should talk more. But besides the electric vehicles, actually one of the big things that we're doing that I haven't mentioned properly is the fleet management. So there's actually a huge system underneath this that do fleet management. The vehicle, we actually design our own IoT system. So we have the vehicle control units in each of electric tuk-tuk. So we could monitor all the vehicles real time. We could know how fast the drivers are driving. We actually know how much the energy consumption the driver is using. We could schedule which vehicle to come to charge, which one to drive, and so on. So that's kind of like the part I haven't mentioned in the presentation.
I see. Oh, okay. So there's also a question about MoveMe service, where in the future, is it possible to go from Jula to Chinatown or other areas in Bangkok?
That's an interesting question, and original plan when we do this, we say we're going to do microtransit and it's going to be zone based. And I think once we start operating, then when we often see that there's two zones very close to each other, and this kind of question come up quite often. So we actually experimented a little bit without promoting, but well, I mean, you have 60 audience right now, right? So 60 people are going to know now, but you could actually today there's 2 points in Chula area where you could actually call to Chinatown area. So if you go to BTS National Stadium, or if you go to the Centenary Park, you could actually call the MoveMe service to go to Chinatown area. But you could not go from anywhere in Chula to Chinatown. But there's a connecting point, and these are the 2 points. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's
But we haven't promoted it because we don't know how it's going to work, and we don't know if the system going to break down. You're going to have proper operation for it. But you can do it today, and feel free to pressure test it. And yeah.
Sure. Some tiny features people don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And there are people asking whether MoveMe's company could like operate in foreign countries, like overseas. Do you think it's possible for MoveMe to move their business to expand their business to overseas?
Definitely. We think, as mentioned, we think about ourselves as a microtransit, and we believe that these issues happen around the world, but in a different formats and at a different level of severities. And if you talk about, there's 2 parts, right? There's is this product still fit in other countries, and if this technology is transferred into different countries. So I think technologies wise, I actually believe that doing this in other countries likely to be easier than Bangkok, because what we see is technologies wise, when we do the data algorithm, car assignment sharing algorithm, one of the issues we have is that the road in Bangkok is not very structured, right? It's not very like a grid system that you could map everything as a grid. And the other things that we see easily is the traffic, which is very unpredictable. And we actually start the whole system from using Google information. But once we operate for a while, we could definitely see that even Google doesn't have good data of Bangkok traffic, especially when you do microtransit. Like Google could predictly fairly okay when you travel like above 30 minutes. But once you come to like microtransit where the travel is like under 10 minutes or under 15 minutes, you often see Google will do some random stuff that doesn't make sense at all, because it's still struggle on that level. But so that's on the technical side. But if you talk about the product market fit, then it's probably depends on the market. But we definitely felt that, of course, there's needs in other countries that could work. India have tuk-tuk, Philippines have tuk-tuks, Indonesia is also a large country, Singapore, and we think, of course, we might not be able to bring the tuk-tuk to all of these countries, but as we see it is like tuk-tuk is one of the hardware. It could also be different types of vehicles, and also I think the fleet management should still work.
And one classmate asked that when you first started MoveMe, what was the hugest obstacle you faced and how did you try to overcome it? Like, just if you could just boil it down to one sentence of like what went wrong or what was tough for you.
Wow, boil down to one thing.
Yeah.
I think if we say boil down to one thing, it's always about people. And when I say that, I'm not saying that in a negative way. And I think no matter what you do, I think the huge things that gonna make or break is about people, right? I mean, it's how do you actually work with your team? How do you actually bring the best out of your team? And when you get it right, it's a excellent feeling, and your company would not be able to thrive without good people. But at the same time, working with people is always a challenging side, but in a positive way, I would say. But it's definitely a challenging, like ranging from recruiting to like working with people. How do you work with smart people is actually quite different from how do you actually work with like people who you say something and then they just follow you, and it's different.
All right. Maybe we'll squeeze one more question, and it'll be when you choose these zones in Bangkok where you provide your service, like what factors were involved with like how you choose these zones, including Asok, Chula Samyan or Ari, like yeah.
Um, so the quick question for Chula, we actually start at Chula first, and it's actually happened from the conversation that I don't know what to say. What's the name in English? Tan Long, lo. Like the property management of Chula contact us and talk about like, hey, we saw us doing similar service in Ratanakosin area for tourists. Maybe you could do something for normal people like commuters, like people who use mass transit in Chula area. And that's how the first area start. But before that, if you ask about how do we choose the area, it's about the population, like the market opportunities, right? The populations, and also like, is it easy to install the charging stations? And what is the route look like? And so there are certain criteria that we look at before we implement, and also looking for the local partners. Like for example, like Chula case where we have local partners is make the implementation much faster.
Okay, I see. All right. Thank you so much for your answers and presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be moving on to our next speaker. All right. So our next speaker, we're proud to present Laika Pet Food. Um, Laika Pet Food is working on insect-based pet food, which yields in high protein, nutritious, and also sustainable for the world because they require fewer resources, and they also make them really tasty for the pet. So today we'll be meeting with Mr. Itikon Tepmani, co-founder of Laika Pet Food. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Itikon.
สวัสดีครับ Thank you for having me ครับผม
ครับ
So let me first share my screen.
Sure.
I assume that you all see my screen right now, right? Good morning, everyone. I'm Itikon. I'm the co-founders of the company called Orca Feed. We do insect farming, and we believe that we are farming the futures right now. And we have a brand called Laika. It's a insect-based dog treat, and I'm more than happy to share this information with you all. First thing first, at Laika, we believe that dogs and cats can be more than just our friends or family members. They are the agent of change, and they can create a positive impact to the world. We believe that dogs and cats can enjoy healthy and tasty treat while they can save the planet at the same time. And here is our product, insect-based dog treat. We use all the natural ingredients. We all add a little bit of superfood for dogs. For example, raspberry, chia seed, sweet potato, pumpkin, and the most important thing, in my opinion, the insect protein. We also working with veterinarian or pet nutritionists to ensure that every product from Laika is safe and good for your pets. Why insect protein? As some of you might know, insect protein has a high amount of protein level with a complete balance of amino acid profile. At the same time, it has a very healthy fat. Its fatty acid profile is quite similar to the coconut oil. And last but not least, when you compare insect protein to the traditional protein source, for example, from poultry or from beef, insect protein has a huge amount of essential mineral. Apart from functional benefit, let's talk about the environmental benefit. To produce the same amount of protein compared to the traditional livestock, beef or poultry, insects require very minimal amount of ecological resources, such as land, water, while they emit a very minimal amount of greenhouse gas to the world. And also at Liga, we believe in a very truly circular economy. Let me explain you a little bit about this circular economy in the way that Liga practicing right now. Initially, we have a lot of food surplus these days all around the world, including here in Bangkok. According to the FAO, Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, they believe that 1/3 of the food produced around the world become wasted or lost along the food supply chain every day. But instead of throwing away this food surplus into landfill or making compost, we as insect farmers, we collect this food surplus, clean food waste, pre-consumed food waste, and then we feed this food waste or food surplus into our insect farms in our closed system. We get one thing, insect protein, and another thing, the byproduct from our farm is the organic compost, which we can give back to the local communities or local farmers, and then they can use our resource to grow that organic produce. And finally, the whole process repeat. So let me show you the 2 minutes video of explaining the whole process of Liga from the beginning to the end. So far this year, we have upcycled more than 6 tons of food surplus, and by the end of next year, we expect to expand our productivity by at least 10 times, and that is equivalent to 100 tons of carbon that we can reduce from our to our world. And here's our financial projection. As a typical ventures, we expect not to make profits in the first years, but we believe that our profit would improve gradually in the second and third years. And we expect that second years would be a very important year for us, as we expect a revenue jump when we have a larger distribution network, as well as we expect to recognize the revenue from the international market. And here is our positioning. At the moment, Laika, we are in the premium mass market. We try to be more playful than to be more scientific, because we really want to create a close relationship with our end consumers. And we believe that our customer would put environmental factor as one of the top factors during their purchasing decisions. And I believe that more and more people, they are paying more and more attention to the environment. We are at the niche market at the moment, but I believe that this niche market is expanding rapidly in the years to come. And here is our distribution channel at the moment. We are focused mainly through our online channel, our own website, our own social media. We go to offline event from time to time. Like last 2 weeks, we went to K Village, and by the middle of this month, we also visit Central Eastview. And next year, we going to expand our outlet through the interesting pet shops around Bangkok and Thailand. And last but not least, as you can see, here is our CEO, or in our team, we call them our chief eating officers. They work diligently, and they ensure every piece of Laika is perfect. And I would like to point out that the climate crisis is almost inevitable right now, and we as a human try almost every way to reduce our impact to the world. We use less plastic. We are trying to do more on the sharing economy. But would it be better to lend a hand from our best friends to fight this climate crisis together? Together we can save the world, one bite at a time. And you all are we are more than happy to invite you all to be part of this amazing journey. And thank you, and I'm ready for the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Mr. Itikon. Many people are saying that your presentations are very nice, and I really like the CEO part.
Thank you.
Chief Eating Officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure many audience in this YouTube live has a pet at home. So again, feel free to check out Laika Pet Food. I'm pretty sure their products are definitely more beneficial for the environment and your pet's health. And as I see, there are some questions in YouTube Live. Okay, so user AJJS asks, how do you know that the treat won't have any negative effect on pet? What test did you undergo to test out your product?
Before we launch our final product, we are working closely with our pet nutritionists, with many leading universities, and there's a lot of publications from the Europe or North American indicating that insect protein is one of the future protein source, and is right now the EU and the Americans, they already approve insect proteins to use as human consumption and animal consumption. So I believe that our product is quite safe for your pets, and like I told you, we launched our product a month ago already, and all of our customers say they are very happy and no negative impact or negative effect to their pets at the moment.
Okay. And also a classmate asked, how much is the price for your pet food product? And when compared to other general food products around these supermarkets, how would you promote your product to attract more customers?
Right now, our product, we only have 2 SKUs at the moment. The one SKU is called Happy Vitamin. This product focuses mainly on the immunity promotion. It has a high amount of beta carotene. And another product is called Cotton Touch. We add a lot of fish oil to boost the omega-3 and 6. It's good for your dog skin and coat condition. These two products for 80 grams, they are sold currently at 150 baht. It's quite in line with the premium mass segment. If you go into the market right now, they have the brand called Dogsters, and they have the brand called Doggery, and we are at that level. We are a bit more expensive than the mass segment for dog treat right now. For example, Jerhai or Pedigree. But I believe that given our story, given our activities from the beginning to the end, we believe that the price at the moment is justified.
All right. And let me see. I think there are some questions. Do you plan to expand your business globally? And if so, how and when?
Yeah, definitely. Uh, it's it's not official yet, but we just closed our fundraising about a month ago. And our strategic partner, they are very well known in the pet industries, and they have a lot of customers abroad. And definitely, we're going abroad by next year's, because I believe that some countries are more willing to try these products more than here in Thailand. And we are going to work with our partner in terms of going abroad.
Okay. Okay, so there's one more student asking for why did you choose to do pet food instead of food for human? Like what was your motivation for like designing a insect based food for pets?
Okay, interesting questions, and thank you for your questions. Initially, we are trying to do a human food, but my co-founder and I, we are actually a pet lover. My co-founder he owned 8 dogs. I own 3 dogs and 2 cats. So we are animal lovers. And one thing that I think is a challenge for the insect as a human consumption is emotional barrier for the human. And as a people and human, we have a variety choice whether we are going to consume plant-based diet or whether we're going to consume lab-grown meat. And there's a lot of choice, and at the end of the day, emotional barrier plays a huge role whether the human will select what kind of food they're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
But as a owners and as a co-founder, we believe and we know that insect protein is very good in terms of nutrition. So why don't we twist a little bit into another market, pet economy, which they don't have emotional barrier at all, and they're willing to eat everything as long as it smells good, it tastes good for them. So I think a lot of people underestimate this market, but I truly believe in the pet economy. Actually, there are only 2 categories in the market that can use the word parents. The one sector is the products related to the babies, and another sector is the pet industry. We don't call ourselves as pet owner, we call ourselves as pet parents. And it's becoming more interesting because in Taiwan right now, we don't call ourselves as pet parents anymore. We call ourselves as pet butler. So these kind of things, they show you the potential of the market. And people also underestimate we're talking about a global footprint, but don't forget we also have global paw print. And that's the thing that we are trying to decarbonize the way we produce pet food.
I see. All right. And this is a question from me. Why did you choose the name Laika? Is there any
I,
meaning behind it?
Actually, the Laika is the first dog that went to the space 50 years ago. The Russians, the Mongol, the Mutt.
Mhm.
And I think fast forward to the Laika this day, we're trying to this Laika trying to explore the universe of insect protein. And I think it's going to be as exciting as going to the space. So here's the story behind the name of Laika.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, so there's also a person asked, do you have any plan B or to prove for an allergy for dog or on insect?
Plan B. Right now, we also working one of the universities to make sure that our insect protein has a minimal chance of creating allergies. But a lot of insect protein company, especially in Europe, they promote these protein source as hypoallergenics. So I believe that that's the one thing that we are going to work more and more to ensure the safety for the end consumers.
And like what you mentioned about insect protein. So what insect exactly?
The species that we use called black soldier fly
Black soldier fly.
is quite similar. We use them during the larva stage.
Mm,
So if you look at them, it's quite similar to the bamboo worm, or we
mm,
call here in Thai as non lod duan.
mm.
So it tastes really great, but it still have the pictures of the larva. So we grind them, we dry them, and we grind to insect powder, and then we incorporate insect protein into our dog biscuit.
I see. All right, I think we're at the time where we have to proceed to our Q&A session. So we would like to invite all the startups founders and co-founders into this chat for a Q&A session. All right. Okay. Someone's driving. Please drive safe.
It's going to another meeting.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, so as students studying in Basai, many of us are curious whether should we start our own startup right after graduating, or should we work for a few years, few months in order to gain experience and develop our own startup business?
I think I'm the least credible speaker here among three of us, so I would let PP talk about this topic first.
I don't think there's no right answer. You could start right after school, or you could start like after you do something for a while. It's very depends, and I think doing this is also depends on timing and depends on what you're doing. One thing to be aware is that the younger you are, the cost of doing or making mistake is lower or cheaper, and the more you grow, you gain more experience, but also the cost of the mistake is higher. So I think for me, you actually know when it's the right time, because it's not like you could say I'm gonna do this in 5 years, and 5 years it happens. It's very depends on many factors, and I think you are the one that probably gonna know the best. And there's no exact answer of what age is the best, at least in my view.
Uh, it for me is like I think you you are a student in Basai. You are in the right place and right time, similar to the first speaker. I think that they still have a lot of challenges and grab to penetrate with the deep tech technology. I think you guys during your study 3 up to 4 years in Basai, you still have a lot of time to do primary survey result and the market. Sometimes the deep technology is even you already get the prototype is similar to the abroad country. Uh, like TA Smart Solution, we can do the same thing is in the USA, but we lack of the research based and business based survey. That's why we need to take a couple years to adjust our business model. I think this, for me, this is the most important for the technology, especially in energy management area. Yeah, you even the manufacturer in Thailand, they also import the technology from abroad. We lack of the technology developed and deployed by Thai people. They still have a lot of gap to proceed. That's why we don't have any um, business data to deploy and to penetrate, yeah, the barriers. I think before gonna launch the startup company, you guys need to strongly proceed this barrier for the any technology area in my view.
For me, in my humble opinion, from the financial point of view, I do suggest that you guys should work for others for, I think, 3 to 4 years first. Here's my reason. Because when you want to start your own company, it takes a lot of money, and it takes money to make money. Because when you start your company and you didn't invest, you don't invest much initially, you're not gonna get a lot of traction. And after that, when you don't have too much traction and you talk to the seed investor or the angel, your valuation of your company would be very minimal. And at the end of the day, you will surrender a lot of equity to that early stage funding. So for my case, I work as a financial analyst for about 3 to 4 years, and now I burn all my whole life saving before I go talk to my investors. But finally, I believe that with the amount of equity I surrender is more justifying. So here is my view, and I believe that lots of you guys are very talented and passionate people, and you can all work with lots of outstanding co-founder like these two speakers. They're very outstanding, and you definitely can learn a lot from them, learn from the mistakes. And here is my take up. uh
I think you still mute up.
Sorry, nothing from my side.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much for your answers, and we'll move on to the next question. So, in your opinion, should do you ever feel burnt out or like almost giving up on your business? And can you like share some experience or your comments about giving up and feeling burnt out? Should we start with Move Me?
Oh, me first again. I thought we were gonna take turn. Burnout, giving up. Well, we have been doing this for 4 years. I think it's very important to choose to do something that it matters to you, so it doesn't burn you out. And for me, I think we know what we are getting ourselves into. We know it's going to be tough. We don't think it's going to be easy journey, but it's worth it. It's one of those things that we cannot do it because I know that if I don't do it, it will be frustrated for the rest of my life. So it's okay for me to do it. Definitely hard work. I used to do consulting, and this I think is more hard work than consulting. And it's kind of like consulting is more like a sprint, and then you after you done the case, then you start a new one. It's like sprint and rest. But this is more like a marathon running that is going to be long journeys and ups and down for a long time. So for me, I think it's more like make sure that you choose to do what it matters to you. I would advise against doing this for money. because in my view, I could get much richer than this by doing other stuff. But I think it's matter to me to do this, so that's why I'm doing it.
How about for Leica Food?
For Liga, yeah, from time to time, I feel very tired, especially at the beginning of the stage, because I'm a financier. I graduated from BBA. I'm not an entomologist, but the first 2 years that I spent a lot of time trying to raise our insects effectively is very, very difficult at that time, about 4 years ago. But when I see the smile from our customer face, when they smile, I feel very motivated, and I feel like I'm doing the correct thing right now, because I believe that we have a lot of organic surplus here in Thailand. And if we can manage it effectively, we can reduce a lot of greenhouse gas. Because if you look back into the IPCC report, actually agricultural sectors, they produce about 25% of the total greenhouse gas. And that's a huge impact that that we can solve. So yeah, I think what we are doing right now is very meaningful for me and for my team. So yeah, from time to time we very exhausted, but we know what we are trying to solve and we'll beat it.
Can I know when did Leica Food start? Like about how many years?
Actually, about 4 years ago, it started as orga feed first. We're trying to raise our insect effectively. It took me 2 years to come up with for now, the optimal formula or the optimal diet for our insect at the moment. And then we can raise our insect consistently. And after that, when we have secure our insect protein, we are doing more on the front end in terms of customer acquisitions and trying to create a cash flow to the company.
Okay, thank you. And for TIE solutions, do you ever feel like
So
giving up?
yeah, like we start this AI command center as a prototype 4 years ago. My background is a researcher, right? So that's why first half we finished the prototype engineering prototype. We quite interested and would like to implement that. Because we never survey the what the customer need. We based on all the things from the USA. Yeah, we are quite interested at first time. We already do the same thing as USA do. When we start to implement at the first project, we start to fail it, like feel bad why people do not understand. That's why I'm saying market survey is the most important thing. You need to really make sure that your product is meets your customer need. That's why we first we start to talk a lot. We talk for almost influent contractor, designer, auditor. We talk to all the people in the building life cycle or even the factory life cycle. Then we condense the market analysis. That's why we all it it's like we click that we know how to penetrate the market. What I'm saying is like my passion as a researcher. We really proud that to can implement our technology, but if we would like to get more fun or like raise fun is also to be the right time and the right pace. That's why we use a four years for the testing prototype, 4 year for testing market. Yeah, right now we get the raise fund in the previous state. That's why you need to really make sure all state and use all your time penetrate on and with your product. That's all my story.
I see. Okay, thank you. Like this, your answers are very precious to like Basai students because most of us are having problems with like when we when we when we like face issues like this, we tend to like really lose motivation and want to give up on our projects. But as you said, projects really take time, and we should all acknowledge that. All right. So moving on to the next question. So all of your businesses are like more more environmentally friendly and have significant. Sorry. So all of your business are environmentally friendly, and does it have like a significant impact on the business model?
Yeah, for Liga first, we were trying to incorporate sustainability in our core strategy. And like I presented previously, we are trying to create a circular economy in our own way. And yeah, but we still have, for our product, we still have a green premium. That means we still charge our consumers more than the typical dog treat or dog food. But because of we lack of the economy of scale. But when the customers paying more attention to our products and they're buying more and more of our products, we are definitely going to expand our production, and we believe that the pricings would come down dramatically. And that's a more impact that we can do, because a lot of more and more of insect means a more food surplus that we can solve. And back to the number again, 1/3 of the food produced around the world become wasted or lost along the food supply chain, and that's a huge underutilized resources that we can utilize.
Can you define about the circular economy? I think some of us aren't very clear with it.
Circular economy, because right now when we have food surplus, the worst thing that the factory owner do, they just throw them into the landfill, let's say garbage landfill. And another thing that they can do is to make a fertilizer or organic compost, which is not that good in my opinion. But instead of throwing this high quality organic surplus away, we as insect farmers, we collect these food surplus for free. We then use this food surplus to feed our insects at our farms. And as you might know, insect is a natural decomposers. They are very good doing these things. After that, we transform our insect into insect protein to supply into the feed industry. The only byproduct from our farm is organic compost. We can give to the local farmer, and then the local farmer can use our fertilizers to grow their organic produce. And finally, they can deliver that product or organic products back to the food supply chain again. So here is our way of doing circular economy at Liga.
Okay. How about for TIE solutions?
For a circular economy, it's like, for example, if you just apply the IoT platform to install that, and you can diagnose what's going on that incur the excessive energy consumption. After you can solve this, but still without the continuous monitoring or control that, it's not sustainable and it's not much impact circular economy. What I'm saying is like you need to install an 24 hours, 7 day to monitor all the things, and use AI control to control all the condition. It's like you have the doctor to diagnose or diagnose building health elsewhere. Yeah, that's why you elsewhere check your building health. It means you can elsewhere diagnose what kind is gonna affect the world circular economy in terms of excessive energy consumption. Yeah, that's we try to most of the building we already solve the problem, especially indoor air quality. When we solve that, owner also asks us, do 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 they still want need to pay for the IoT monitoring like yearly subscription? It's very difficult for us to explain this because owners still lack of knowledge how they invest for the IoT monitoring and diagnose for the long term and sustainable reduce energy saving. Yeah, this our also our barriers. We try to solve this one by co-working with the MEA headquarters in terms of the energy saving measure or MEA index. We try to install our product with the MEA brand because most of owner they prefer awarded they prefer award with the sustainable energy saving. That's why this is another next year plan to penetrate the market and long term circular economy. Yeah, sometimes startup talk the same thing. Owner do not understand or do not touch this. Maybe we need like governmental policy to support us for SE. Yep.
So you asked the question if we're integrating the environmental part into our business models, right? I think in our case it's kind of interesting because when we ask our user, or I could actually ask all the BASI students in here that actually the environmental part, the clean part, the electric part, the safety part, people are actually not willing to pay additional for it. We actually did research, and it's always come down to the bottom rank, and like, yeah, people notice that it's electric, but it's not enough to drive the user to use our service. But having said that, as mentioned earlier, we choose electric for other reasons. And yes, part of it is because we believe it's cleaner. It's often what cleaner often mean better efficiency. So of course, what we do, we want to improve everything for efficiency. So by doing things cleaner, it's actually good for our business. So the way we think is, it doesn't start from like we're gonna do clean business. It's more like we're gonna do good service for customers, and we believe that by using electric vehicles, it's actually help us to do a better business, rather than start saying that we're going to be an environmental business and start from there.
Okay, moving on to the next question. I've seen a lot of questions asking about COVID, the pandemic. Like, due to COVID-19, are there any significant changes or effects on your business nowadays? It's been almost a year of COVID, and yeah, a lot of audience are pretty curious if COVID has struck your business.
For Liga, initially we were heavily affected from the COVID because the food supply chain at that moment was interrupted, and we could not find food supplies at that moment to feed our farm. So at that moment, our insect productivity decreased a lot, and that's the thing that we got affected from COVID-19. But in terms of the customer, no impact at all. Actually, they start to becoming more aware of the whole situation in terms of the environmental situation at the moment. As Bill Gates said, the COVID-19 is awful, but the climate crisis could be worse, and people are becoming more and more on the environment. So I think in terms of the customer side, no impact at all.
I see. About for TIE Solutions?
Yeah, COVID-19 situation maybe it's not impact in terms of the it's the B2C business is not much impact, but for TAE is a B2B, right? B2B business is like most of them. Uh, our customer is a building and factory, right? Is enhance our technology, is enhance our market increase because most of the customer call us to solve the humidity because um, as I mentioned, if your indoor humidity, relative humidity is more than 65%, is increase COVID-19 risk internal air infection. That's why it's helped building owner to leverage the ventilation in building and factory. So that's why this is um, enhance a lot of new business model like IoT market maybe increase, improve the building automation system market increase. A lot of things about the technology in building that increase, like thermal camera market increase, right? They all used to they try to protect all the thing for the risk in the COVID-19. I think COVID-19 situation increase the is like realize people, especially building owner, to understand more how to improve the building technology, yeah, to respond and to care the occupants in building and even the officers in fact building and factory, yeah.
For us, of course, it's a direct hit. um, Actually, we doing in additional to Move Me service, we also have Tuk Tuk Hop service, and Tuk Tuk Hop is like a hop on hop off in a tuk tuk 1 day pass that targeting tourists, and that one is super interesting. That January February we are actually doing very well. March we actually doing much better than other people. And then I think it hit the Chinese tourists first, and we weren't relying on Chinese tourists. So at the beginning, we thought like, oh, okay, this isn't bad at all. And then when you got to March, April, and then it's go down to zero. So that's super interesting. For us, I think there's some blessing in disguise as well, but it's kind of like shocking to the travel industry that we know many of our partners actually like gone bust already. So it's huge impact for sure, and it's actually quite concerning, given that the whole economy of the countries depends on this tourism. But on the Move Me side, of course, impact because there's a lockdown. But it's interesting that even during the lockdown, the customer doesn't go to zero. And of course, we do lots of adjustment. We remove the sharing, which is our core things for MoveMe. We don't share anymore, and I think people actually start to prefer MoveMe during the COVID because it's said open air, and they don't want to kind of like getting near close to other people. So there's some benefits in that. And looking back, I think it's actually we missed opportunities during COVID in the fact that we didn't ramp up the technologies and the business and other things fast enough, because now after wave one, now we kind of like the number of customer is 2 or 3 times more than before COVID, and seems like our system doesn't catch up. So we hope that if we turn back time, we probably gonna work a lot harder during that time during the COVID.
Speaking of the ride sharing feature of MoveMe, there's also a student who asked, like, as he perceived, the Thai community and culture is very conservative. And when you first launched MoveMe, did you meet any obstacles or concerns about the ride sharing platform?
Yes and no. I think it's actually already exists if you think about the song tell, or if you think about like the traditional kapo. Like there's a little Daihatsu tuk-tuk that people squeeze in. So actually people quite familiar into that. And most people care about this first mile, last mile microtransit is about price and accessibility. So if you answer that, they are willing to get awkward and and go into this kind of service. But at the same time, there's a lot of education elements that for sure MoveMe could do better in terms of communicating with with the user about how this sharing work. But from what I noticed, given that the mobile technologies, I often observe people once they come in and they just start using their mobile phone. So it's not like awkward in the past that you don't have mobile phone to look at and you have to kind of like don't know who to do eye contact with and so on.
All right. So I should announce again, like if any of the audience have any questions, feel free to comment in the YouTube live. The speakers will see it as well, and they will answer for you immediately. Let's see. Are there any questions?
How do we see the questions?
It's on YouTube live.
Oh, so I have to go to YouTube live.
Right.
Could you send us a link?
Oh, okay.
And you can complain about Move Me service as well. I can take it. I know it happens.
Okay. There was a complaint for Move Me. A student said, why sometimes we have to wait 30 minutes for Move Me to arrive? That's so long.
Not enough cars. Not enough
Not
cars.
enough cars.
I want to ask back as well that why are you waiting 30 minutes for us? No, but I mean, I would love to know this as well. I mean, it's super interesting, and I think we actually had customer who wait 2 hours for us when it was raining in Ari, and we were like torturing, looking at the monitors, like, oh man, when's the car's gonna arrive? When's she gonna get the cars? And eventually she get it in 2 hours, and it's just like, oh my god, sorry. You could take this ride for free. Sorry. But yeah, if the person could answer back why waiting for 30 minutes, that would be helpful for us as well. But yes, not enough cars. We're going to add more cars, and we probably could improve in algorithm as well to make it more efficient, so people could actually jump on the ride faster and sooner.
Okay, I see. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. Okay, someone asked, what do you believe is a key of success for your startup? Maybe you could start with TIE.
The key is like, firstly, your product is real. First thing is product is especially for deep building technology. If your product is real, is real smart, real diagnostics, real service, that's enough for. And also you conduct the right market. And for me, I also say that our business, you need to find out supply and chain, the whole supply chain, or in building, we call building life cycle. If you find that, you're gonna know what the gap and what the market you're gonna penetrate. Yeah. Okay. My conclusion, first thing is real product, real use, real advantage, and real business market.
For Laika, I couldn't agree more with Dr. Grisada. He mentions already about people, and I think this is one of the key things that can make or break the startup. As long as you have good team, perfect co-founders, no matter how hard the situation will be in the future, we will be very dynamic, flexible, and can solve all the challenges.
Do you have anything to say to students, like key to success? Like students at our age?
Yeah, I think so. I think one of the things I see during the university is that they teach you a lot of hard skill, but not enough soft skill. And I think soft skill is actually something that you get from actual doing it. So when you actually do these extra activities, extracurricular activities, that's actually when you learn this kind of stuff. Or I'm not sure if there's any class that is multidisciplinary that you learn doing groups with other faculties that is helpful. So I think highly encourage that you improve your EQ, because I think typical what we see from Chula student is like super high IQ and engineering especially, but they struggle to connect with people. And I think when you do working in real life, it's, I don't know, the split not less than half for sure, that you need like both EQ and IQ.
May I ask if any of the speakers here have experience with abroad? Like, do you have you been abroad before you started your startup, or abroad for studies? Anyone could answer. Maybe
I
you
can
would like.
start.
Yeah.
I was born and raised here in Bangkok. I went to Australia for a short period of time, and I did go to Media Lab for a short period of time too, but as a side visit. And that that's it for my experience abroad. I mainly stay here in Bangkok.
How about TIE solution?
Okay. When I was a PhD student in Nebraska, I you see it's like most of Thai people who join a startup company in Thailand, they also say they are from Silicon Valley, right? But but in my opinion, I'm in another view. In Nebraska, is a developing state. Even this state is in USA. That's why I'm quite understand the local people how they familiar with the developing technology. That's why I'm use the developing technology like in Nebraska apply in Thailand. Yeah, it's another view you should say. Silicon Valley is one of the best city or high tech technology city in USA, but not all in USA. I think they still have a lot of gap in USA to further study. Yeah, especially it's my good chance to select Nebraska and have an opportunity to work with one of the potential company about the smart building technology. That's why it's helped me a lot to learn another idea uh, beyond the Silicon Valley. That's why we can integrate together. I think in different countries they have the traditional they have like traditional and local people behaviors. That's why the one of the main key thing you need to understand. Yeah, and also if that the product is do not match with the people local people behavior, is also cannot. It's very difficult to be success at all.
I just saw the owner who wait 30 minutes.
Yes.
He said because the app didn't told her. Yeah, so we fixed that. So this is part of doing startup. You kind of like cannot guess what's gonna happen. Initially, I thought like there's no way people have to wait more than 20 minutes for our service. So let's say put 20 plus, and yeah, if it's more than 20 minutes, that's fine. But yeah, so now we fix it, and if it's 30 minutes, we'll tell you it's 30 minutes. But of course, definitely something we need to improve it with more vehicles and better sharing system and so on. Experience abroad, I can share. I actually have So I did my master degree. I did bachelor degree at Chula and in engineering, and then after that I did master degree at Cambridge in England. After Cambridge, I worked in a Lotus car company in England for another 2 years, and so decent amount of exposure abroad. After that, I come back and then I actually did my PhD at Stanford in US. So another 5 years in that. So during the time at Stanford, that's actually Silicon Valley's open a lot of exposure to lots of mindset that they often say that there's a startup box that gonna beat you, and everyone's there kind of talking about how I'm gonna change the world, how I'm gonna change the world. So it's kind of an environment, a bubble that kind of manipulate your mindset that make you believe that you could change the world. So I guess that's why I'm kind of answer to a couple of questions about like what made you go through your tough time, and it's because you believe this matter to you and that's why you're doing it, rather than you doing it for something that is actually not very matter to you, because one day when you hit big obstacles or something, then you start wondering, why am I doing this?
Because in third year for Basai, like students have the opportunity to go exchange programs for like maybe one semester, and like they're encouraging all students to go abroad. And here's my question for all of you: like, if we were to go abroad, what's one key takeaway we should get from an abroad experience? And we could further implement this experience into maybe like future startup and like our own personal life.
Well, I would say you should do it. First thing, you should do it, I think, in my view. Second thing is just to learn and enjoy as much as you can. And when I say learn, I'm not talking about, well, I shouldn't say this, right? I'm just about to say I'm not talking about learning in the class, but you should anyway. But learning about the culture, the environments, and how people think, because I think that's probably when you realize that people are different. Because right now you probably think that, oh, like you think the next person to you is different, but they actually not. When you actually in abroad, that's when the whole mindset, the way thinking is completely different, and that's when you start thinking, understand more about how the human works, and you're getting better with empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And enjoy, travel, find friends, foreign friends.
All right.
Yeah, I also do encourage you all to go abroad, because as I mentioned earlier, I don't have luxuries to be in that place, but I would recommend you to create a goal, whether what kind of output that you want, because all of us has dream, right? But dream without goal is just a dream. So you have to create what you really want from that trip. Here is the thing that I also learned from my investors. He is one of, I think, Zhao Sua here in Thailand. The first three questions is not about the business viabilities. Is going to be financially viable or not? Not that kind of questions. The first 2-3 questions is the things that he asked me about my characters or my goal in life. So I believe that you all can relate this kind of priority into your studying abroad to really find something that is meaningful for your life. And yeah, that's my answer. It might not be as good as Kun Doctor, but
All right. Thank you.
No,
And how about
doctor
Keith?
doesn't mean anything. If you study doctor, then you understand it's nothing. It's just people who spend more years in school. That's it.
Yeah,
ครับผม
doctor degree is nothing. It's the same idea. For me, is I also encourage you guys go abroad and learning the different culture, and don't forget to adjust the right culture to the right to the local area that you gonna set up the startup company. Yeah, and before the first thing I would like to recommend before you can join a board to select the check the right page that you can join. You should join like a new energy ecosystem or another Southeast Asia ecosystem. Yeah, you join and ask that experience first. Yeah, even I'm going to join the new energy program and said to the director of the program, yeah, we want to explain for the abroad, explain to the another Southeast Asia country. They said, why to do that? Why don't you get all the fact the building first, more than 200 building before explain for abroad? Yeah, you can get the another recommendation from a different culture, different country. Yeah, but before gonna go abroad, find out all information from the many ecosystem first. Yep.
And just
All
one
right.
thing, when you go abroad, remember that you're also representing Thailand. So behave.
Sounds like there's some background story there. All right, and that
I
concludes.
saw one question that I want to address. They said that many successful startup have studying overseas background. Is it possible for people who study only Thailand to be successful, especially in tech sector? Definitely
Good
yes.
question.
If you want to do startup, you should not be bothered by this kind of questions. It's about like your determination and that's also the things that you have to be if you want to become entrepreneurs is that you have to be able to learn very quickly, and it doesn't mean that you have to go abroad in order to be able to learn quickly.
All right, that concludes our Q&A session for today, and thank you so much for all your insights and precious answers. And before we end this webinar, we would like to invite Dr. Ranagon, our beloved professor in Basai, to give an ending speech. So we'll have our staff to invite Dr. Ranagon. All right.
Hi guys, how are you doing, man?
Great.
All right, thank you to finally meet you in person. Not in person, but electronically. It is a fruitful session that I've been listening to you guys for like 2.5 hours now, and I think start from Mr. David and then Dr. Den Chai, Dr. Kisidas and Kunitikorn. I think all the sessions are pretty fruitful, and I hope the audience and my student can learn a lot from your insights, from your experiences, from your expertise, and thank you for come and share to this session. Well, to me, like sustainable development is not a pattern, it's not a toolkit, it's not an activities or anything. I think it is more a goal and a good mindset that help us to sort of like look at the problem in the holistically pattern, you know. So that's why we are trying to solve something which not really impact our happiness level. I keep saying this to my student that doing things sustainably is not about reducing your happiness level. You need to do something like you need to earn the same level of happiness with at least have adequate amount of resource and happiness level to your grandkids, to your great grandkids too. So energy and climate change is one of the hot topics right now, and I don't think it's go away. It's pretty fast. So if you guys can take these lessons and sort of like embed into your routine life, trying to adapt those insights to your startup project and try to live happily, that would be great. So thank you one more time for the great speakers. I really want to invite you in person next time we're gonna have a mentor meeting. Let's do it. But for now, thank you so much. Thank you, the organizer. Thank you, Tiger as a cool MC ever, and all the organization, all organizers as the student in these subjects. You guys did it pretty well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ranagon. And Thank you all the speakers once again for taking your time and giving us such meaningful information today on climate change. And it's been our pleasure to host this event. I wish you all stay healthy and safe and wish you a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having us.
Thank youครับ
Thank you ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ
ครับขอบคุณครับ
ครับ
Thank you so much